What power is dreamed about more than the power of personal flight? To heroically soar through the air with the greatest of ease, escaping the troubles below. This is a recreation of Fire Valkyrie. This is one of my first characters I made for City of Heroes, and the first that made it to level 50. And yes, I know there is a Valkyrie in the game, but I didn't when I made the first incarnation years ago. She is a fire tanker that believes in taunting with her fists, rather than grunting at her enemies. She is currently on a quest to dabble in all of the travel power sets. She has just recently acquired both hover and flight, but she wanted to do it with a bit of flash and style as well as being quite practical in combat. This is why I created a special macro for her, that not only makes her wings appear only when she takes flight, but also works as a toggle to go back and forth between full flight and hover. It is quite handy to be able to easily toggle back to hover for its reduced endurance usage and the enhancement to defense, and for a quick getaway when things go wrong. To create this effect you need to create an alternate costume. In my case I put some mechanical wings on, but there is no reason you couldn't add a jetpack or whatever other change you might want to have when you become airborne. Then you need to make two macros, a fly macro and a land macro. Remember, when making macros it will only put one command in, but we will edit it later so it will work the way we want. Also remember, when making a costume change macro, the first slot starts at 0, not at 1. So when I created the fly macro I simply typed /macro fly, CCE1, CC Ninja Leap. All this will do right now is make Fire Valkyrie jump in the air and come back down with her wings. You can find the various costume change effects on the ParagonWiki. I simply googled City of Heroes costume change effects and it appeared for me at the top. I next created the land macro. I typed in /macro land, CCE0, CC featherburst. Again, all this does is make her change costume, but in a burst of light and feathers, so she is back to her classic cape. Now let's edit these macros so they work properly. Starting with the fly macro, right-click the macro and select Edit. At the far right of the Change Costume command type $. $. Allow you to put in multiple commands into a macro. They separate each command. Now type in PowerExec _ toggle on hover, another $, and PowerExec _ toggle on fly. Make sure the spelling of the commands are correct, and the fly macro is all done. To test it to make sure you got it right, with fly and hover both off, click on the fly macro. Your character should perform the costume change animation, change costume and trigger the fly or hover power. The order does matter for the toggling of the power and hover commands. This example will make your character fly first on the first click. But if you wanted to hover first for some reason, you can edit the macro and swap the fly and hover positions. This macro should also toggle off one travel power while toggling on the other. Basically, when you click the fly button, it will go back and forth between hover and fly. Now we need to land. The land macro will shut off flight or hover, whichever happens to be on. Right-click the land macro, and select Edit. Again, after the costume change animation command, put in $, PowerExec _ toggle off, fly. Another set of $, and PowerExec _ toggle off hover. This will turn the off fly or hover power, whichever is currently activated, and of course trigger the costume animation. These two simple macros are not only a fun visual to customize your character even more, but the fly command will be helpful in the game as you will go back to hover and fly with a single button. This can also be used on toggling sprint and super speed, or combat jump and super jump. So now that you are up and away in style, don't forget to embrace the chaos of gaming.